Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. So this episode's another interview in our 2020 Guide to Denver Real Estate Investing Strategies book. So my guest host today is Terrence Doyle. Terrence, glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
And who we're interviewing today is Kyle Doney with Livin' Real Estate. So he wrote a chapter in the 2019 book, and he also wrote a chapter in the 2020 book. And I'd really recommend everyone out there to read both those chapters because his business has gone through some great growth. So I'm interested to talk to you about that, Kyle, hear what you're doing, also hear some of the growing pains you're having, and to see how you're expanding because you've had some impressive numbers, man. Glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, so why don't you give everyone just a quick recap here? Like what's your business? Because I don't want to do it injustice and not do a good job of telling people what you do because you've definitely expanded.
Yeah. I mean, generally, I'm a fix and flipper. I mean, that's the majority of my business is fix and flip. But I buy rentals as well. I've been buying rentals since I started. That's how I got into the business. And I do some note investing and some owner finance stuff. And then we'll wholesale here and there as well. You know, we'll wholesale a few a year. But primarily, I'm a fix and flipper.
Sounds like you're opportunistic as well.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I look at the deal and figure out what works and go that direction. So it's not like it has to be a flip. If it doesn't make sense as a flip, we'll wholesale it. You know, or if it makes sense as a rental, keep it. It just depends on the deal.
So what's your filter process? Is everything first like through the lens of fix and flip, and then it doesn't work, it goes to this? Or like what's your like logic tree on that?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I try to come in with the mindset of if I'm going to put something under contract, we're intending to close on it. You know, like I really don't want to fumble around with a bunch of deals that are like they don't work, and you know maybe we'll make a couple grand on it. Like trying to wholesale it because it's just a waste of time. Like I'm mainly looking at stuff when a deal comes in and an acquisition person is working it on our team, then you know we'll take a look at it and look at it to keep as a flip, typically. So that's kind of the frame that I'm looking at deals in, you know, that we're going to take it down.
Yeah, Kyle. So you and I have met a couple times in the past, and we've spoken. I think we met. I can't remember who, but we met a couple years back. Yeah. And I believe that was like your first or second year in real estate. And I have a great admiration for people that have served in our military. So why don't you maybe give the audience a little bit background if they don't know, how did you get into real estate, what you're doing before real estate, and how you've started, and then we'll go into kind of what you're doing now to show the growth you've had.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So I started in 2013. I just started one at a time. So I was in the military and I was active duty, and then I went in the reserves. And while I was in the reserves, I went to college, and I started just gaining interest in becoming an entrepreneur and starting a business. So after college, I started a vending machine company, a healthy vending machine company, and started an electronic wholesale company as well. And those two things were doing well for me. And that kind of got me into I cut my teeth on the healthy vending business, really like understanding business and just learning the ropes. And then from there, you know, I was doing well in those businesses, and that led me into real estate. I was always interested and just started reading on Bigger Pockets. Actually, that's where I started reading about it and learning. And you know, bought the first house. I remember I had some friends that were in the business in Texas, and they kind of were like, "Yeah, it's a good deal. You should buy that." But I found a house on Craigslist and up in Greeley, and that was my first one I bought, and kind of went from there.
And do you still own that house?
I do. Yeah. So I bought that house off Craigslist for 25 grand. If you guys know Denver prices, it's ridiculous, ridiculously cheap for a single family. And you know, I made a bunch of bad calls on that house. You know, like I tried working on it myself with a buddy, and like you know, found out real quick I'm not a contractor, and that's not what I should be doing. You know, I rented to the wrong person. The first tenant that I had destroyed the house, and I had to evict them. You know, stopped paying like 2 months after they were in, and learned some hard lessons there. And you know, that was kind of my first experience in real estate, and then it went from there.
So I just want to hear a little bit more about that first deal. So you bought it for 25,000 off Craigslist,
Yeah.
which I wish you could still buy homes on Craigslist for 25,000. Those were the good old days. And
Yeah.
now what is the home rented for?
I rent it for $1,000 a month. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It's like, I want to say 700 square feet. Little small house.
That's an insane return. $25,000, and now you're getting 12,000 a year in gross income.
Yeah, I plan on keeping it forever.
That's right. And you made a bunch of mistakes, and you're still going to make money. So that's the beauty of real estate. So you started in 2013. You graduated from college. Were in the reserves. You bought your first house, and then in 2019, in the chapter you talk about you did 62 deals last year. So walk the audience through a little bit the transition of how you went from one house in Greeley to 62 deals. Give us kind of what were the milestones there and how you were able to grow that.
For sure. Yeah. So I'll just clarify, that's under contract. That wasn't closed. I think we closed like 42 or somewhere around there. Like actually closed and profited from. So I usually I count them, you can acquisition a deal, but if I get a deal in like December, that counts towards that 62, but we're not going to sell it till 2020 and, whatever, March, whatever. So just to clarify that. But yeah, it was kind of it was a slow transition, really. I mean, when I started in 2013, I bought 2 houses, and then 14, I think in 14, I didn't buy anything. I think I was so busy with the other businesses that I just didn't buy anything at all. And then 15, I started buying again. I bought a few in 15, and then 16, I really started ramping it up. So I streamlined some things in the other 2 businesses where I wasn't working in them, they weren't taking up as much of my time. Right. And so I was able to get into more flips and more deals. And I forget the exact number that I did in 16, but bought a bunch. I got into a bad partnership and learned some hard lessons in 2016. Lost a bunch of money on different flips and made some terrible mistakes. Luckily, I had the other businesses that were bringing in income, and that pulled me through. And so I survived that. And then in 17, I really was like, okay, we're going to go full time here. And like, this is going to be my sole focus. And I think I sold the vending business at the end of 17, but I was really out of the business. I was putting in, very little hours per week in that business. And got out of the other wholesale business and just started focusing in 17. And I think we did 28 deals in 17, something like that. And it's just going from there. It's really comes down to the team, how I've been able to grow. I've found some good people, and I have an awesome team. We're small, but mighty. And, they really do a great job and help me look good and give a lot of praise to that, just finding the right people. And I continue to do that. That's how I continue to grow and grow the team and grow people around me as well.
Yes, you made some great points there. And I want to come back to the team aspect. Let's talk more about the growth. So in the chapter, I was really fascinated. You talk about going to North Carolina, to Raleigh, and to Little Rock, Arkansas. So out of all, I think, for the audience out there that's like, okay, you're in Denver, you're in Greeley, how the heck did you pick Raleigh and Little Rock? I mean, 2 different parts of the country, totally different demographics. I'm sure real estate and the way the market operates and even how title and lending is so different there. Can you I'd love to just know personally, like, how did you underwrite those cities? Was it you had relationships? I mean, how did you pick those cities? Was it based on data? Was it based on family and friends? I mean, how did you come about going from, Denver to those 2 markets?
Yeah. So really it was the relationships to grow there. I mean, in Denver alone, we've expanded a bunch. I mean, we're up in Wyoming now, doing flips up in Cheyenne, and we're all the way down to Pueblo. So we're all over Denver. And I was like, why can't we do this in other states? Really, I wouldn't be in North Carolina if it wasn't for Josh Morris, who's my partner there. He and I worked together here in Denver for a long time and in a previous business as well. And so we had a long relationship of working together and been friends since college. So he started his own thing in North Carolina, moved to Raleigh, and it just kind of made sense to keep partnering together. And so that was my in there. Otherwise I wouldn't be in that market if it wasn't for him. So that's how we went into there, and it's pretty much the price points are cheaper there, but I think the margins are about the same, and it's a competitive market as well. But it's similar, and we can run the same model that we're running here in Denver, in Raleigh, which is mostly flips and some wholesales, some light rehabs. There's a lot more newer houses there, which I like a lot, because there's just less issues. But then you got you got differences there as well. You got like termite issues in North Carolina and Arkansas that you don't have here. So there's that type of stuff. And then in North Carolina, it's an attorney state. And so, here we're a title state. We close at a title company. There, it's attorneys that close the deals, and they're much more difficult to work with. And so that whole side of things it's completely different. And I'm still learning the ropes there. And Josh is helping a lot with that.
I've heard attorney states are just nightmares. Every agent and investor I've talked in those states, all they do is bitch about it.
They're pathetic, to be honest.
Yeah, lawyers get involved, and of course, it just makes things infinitely more complicated.
Yeah, Iowa's actually an attorney state as well. Why? Explain to the audience just a brief overview of why an attorney state is more difficult to close than title.
From what I've seen so far, it's just they're just not on top of things like a title company. Like they're very like lackadaisical when it comes to the paperwork and just getting payoffs and getting things done. I don't know why it is, but we've tried a couple of different attorneys now, and we're using the best of the best in North Carolina, and like they're still terrible. So I really don't have an answer for your question. Besides, they're just really they're just not on top of things like a title company is here in Colorado. You got to really be on them.
Yeah, for us, it's just the title, the history of title, right? They have to chase down the abstract. So in Des Moines, it's like for instance, like in Denver, if you find a deal and someone needs to close in 7 days, you can do it because title is able to pull the history so much faster. They have people in the office doing that. They don't have to go around to different offices around town, and everything's just in one place. And in Des Moines, closing in 7 days is like unheard of because they can't even track down the abstract in 7 days. So then to update it and have the attorneys look at it and see if there's any liens or any, even where the boundary lines are on a property, all those things, when you're dealing with an attorney that has to go down to the city and find out who's owned the property, that, it brings so many new variables into play. And I've seen closings get delayed 30, 45 days just trying to update the abstract. Because literally it's just like, okay, Chris Lopez owned this home 5 years ago. Before Chris, Mary Ann and her husband owned it, and then they had a lien from there, or they went through a divorce, and has the divorce been cleared? It just gets, you're taking something that should be really simple, and they just make it so infinitely more complicated. So I agree. I think what's hard is those attorneys have lobbyists in those states, and I don't, because I've asked a couple different friends like, hey, when is this going to go to a title? Because no one can defend the fact that title isn't the better option, but I think because it drives so much revenue to attorneys there, it's hard to see that going away, even though it is antiquated.
Yeah, for sure.
So we don't need to get sidetracked on that, but that is interesting that you're having that same issue in North Carolina.
Hey, I think everybody does.
What are price points like in North Carolina?
We're generally, we're generally like in the mid 200s. Look through my list. Yeah, we're buying in the mid hundreds and selling in the 200s, upper 200s, generally under 300 grand.
What type of neighborhoods would you compare that to in Denver? Just as far as like, house, all that type of stuff.
They're different type of houses. Like it's definitely different. I would compare it to like maybe like some of the northern regions like Westminster, Thornton, just a lot of like suburban neighborhood style.
Newer communities.
Yeah, newer communities.
Kind of like the cookie cutter home right next to the other one. Not a lot of mature trees.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a lot of cookie cutter, which really it makes things easier, in my opinion. It's easier to comp. It's like it just makes things easier.
So, what brought you to Little Rock? The North Carolina connection makes sense with your business partner there. What about Little Rock?
Yeah, Little Rock. So I actually pulled out of Little Rock. So we still got some deals going there, but I have pulled out of Little Rock. So that I'm done there. And we can go into that.
Yeah, you don't mind, like, because I personally like. All three of us, and I think probably most people listening to this, anyone that's an investor out there, an entrepreneur, you have your good times, you also have your bad times, and we like to reflect on our good times more. But I love learning about what went sideways or why it's not a good use of your time, whatever it is. Like, why did you go in there? And then what happened to make you pull out?
Yeah. Okay. So I went in because I met a partner, or I met a guy at a networking event. Great guy. He's very smart with creative deals, and that's what I wanted to do more of. So deals in my retirement account and IRA and just tax-free deals is really the main reason I went in there, and to find long-term cash flow with those type of deals. So really our strategy was to do wraps and come in there and find private money to finance these houses, and they're like, let's say 40 grand, they're really cheap, and then go sell them to a homeowner at 10% interest, which they're used to paying, for let's say 100 grand. Okay. And then just sit there and make the cash flow. That was the main strategy there. And we did some wholesales last year. I think, I don't know the exact number of deals we did there, but it was over 10 or somewhere around there. Actually, I think it was a lot more than that. I don't know. It was somewhere 10 plus. I don't know the exact amount. I'd have to look back, but
I don't think you have too many deals.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Back after 10. It was something over 10. It was a lot.
I don't know. There's a bunch.
It's a good problem to have.
we did a bunch there, but we definitely did some notes and whatnot. But what I found is that the profits are just really small, and I'm used to the Denver spreads, and North Carolina spreads are pretty similar. And so it just kind of became not worth the time to do these deals. Then you're splitting it, you're splitting it in half on a small deal already. And so there's just not a lot of profit in it for the amount of time it takes. That was one issue. The guy that I was working with, he's working with some sales guys that they really have their own goals and ambitions to do real estate. And so they weren't necessarily focused on our end on the leads, and we're doing their own thing, and I think that hurt us on getting some deals. And so, I'm looking at the leads that we're generating that are costing money, and I'm spending, a chunk of cash every month marketing there. And then I see stuff sitting in our CRM not being worked, and that's really frustrating. And so that was another issue.
So they were just neglecting the leads. They weren't like working them and selling them their own deals. They were just neglecting you.
Just neglecting the leads. Yeah. I mean, they were getting deals, of course, but they were getting deals as well. But it was more like the laydowns, the ones that was like, oh, it came in and it's super hot. And when I say lay down, that means it was easy. Like you could lock it up like that. Yeah. And the ones that needed like follow up for the next 6 months to get the deal, those ones were like, no, I ain't. It really, you have to follow up. Like follow up is a big part of the game. You have to follow up, and you have to be on these. You got to go on appointments. Like it takes work, and I just seen that they weren't doing that. So that was another issue. But I think a lot of it was just that the profits are small. Once you come in and do one of these wrap deals, and you have an underlying lender, and you're paying them 10%, and you sell the property and you mark it up another. You sell it for 10%, but you mark up the price. That's cool. You can create a couple $100, but of cash flow there. Then you split it 50-50, and it's just not a lot of money, and it just became not worth it. Long story short.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think 2 or 3 years ago when we were really heavy in the flipping game, we had stuff going in Dallas and Tampa and Charleston and in Louisville, and then obviously Des Moines and Denver. And I think at the end of the year, I don't know who brought it to my attention, but I was like, I should probably just sit down and see what is the actual return on these, Yeah. And I think Chris and I even recorded a podcast from this aha moment I had, which was just on out-of-state investing. And I think, and I'm not sure how often you hear it, but I hear so many people like, well, I'm going to go to Indianapolis, or I'm going to go to Kansas City, or I'm going to go to this other Midwest state where I can get 10 or 9 or whatever ridiculous cap rates that you can't get in Denver, or you can, but it's very hard. It's not, you can't just find them on the MLS. And I think it's interesting. You're making a great point that, when you look at it all net, what's my return on my time? You just keep coming back to Denver. It's like, I think I'm just going to stick here. And I think that was what the decision I made, in 2018. The same thing was, you have all this additional risk being out of state, not being there, not having your interest aligned, not being able to manage the team, the price points being different, the closing being different, just banking being different. And even though things can look so attractive on an Excel spreadsheet, when you get down to it, I just realized, and it sounds like you're finding the same thing, is, I can just do better with my money in Denver. I'm just going to stay here, and where I know I can go see the property every day if something happens.
100%. Yeah. The other part of it is when you're in those really low price point markets. I mean, there's houses that you can't give away. Like seriously, you can't even give them away. Like people don't. It's like they're like war zones.
Yeah,
And
resale market's much drier. That's right. Less
yeah,
liquid.
yeah. So it takes longer to sell stuff. And then there's properties that are just so thrashed and beat up, like you can't even sell them. Even if you're owner financing somebody, like people don't want them. I mean, they don't want to be in the area. It's crime. There's a lot of crime and so we got into some bad deals too. And that was due to taking the word of somebody else looking at it that wasn't experienced enough to know what was wrong with the property. And that was, got us into some bad deals where they're going to lose money or they lost money.
The good old fashioned out-of-state dummy tax.
Yeah.
Like
so
you're paying the dummy tax.
It's
like,
exactly,
oh, it's a great neighborhood. It's like crime central.
Yeah. So I still got some deals going there. And like I said, the guys, I have a good relationship with those guys there. They're good guys. I want to keep a relationship with them, but just partnership wise and being worthwhile being there, it's just not going to go forward with it. So learn that the hard way. And I want to go deeper into North Carolina, and we're going deeper here in Denver. Like I said, we're covering a wide range. So there's plenty of opportunity here to stay busy. And we really don't, I don't really need to put my time over there at this point.
Yeah, there's no need to take unnecessary risk when you have two solid markets with great operators. It's proven. Yeah, and just trim the fat and focus, double down on your strengths. Chris and I talk about that all the time. So, I think there's a lot of, the audience is, I think, getting into real estate, or maybe they're in and they're trying to grow and get to where, going from where you were in 2013, 14, and 15 to where you are now. And the questions of partnerships comes up a lot. And I really, I think earlier in the show, you talked about how you had some bad partnerships in other businesses, and even, the Little Rock and North Carolina, relationship. So what's your advice to people starting out that, may need to form a partnership? Maybe they can find deals, but they don't have the capital, or maybe they have the capital, but don't have the deals, or they don't have the construction. What would be some of your, high level bullet point, advice to someone that's getting started or wants to grow and is looking to get into partnerships? What's your advice and take on that?
First thing I would say is just do it on a one-off basis. Like there's no reason to go in 50-50 on everything right away. I don't see a need for it. So I would say it's great to have partnerships. Partnerships are great. I had partnerships that, and here in Denver, I'll partner on stuff, but it's on a one-off basis. It's like, hey, I found this deal and you have this resource. Do you want to come in on this deal with me? Right. And there's no need to go create an LLC and be 50-50. And it's like, okay, from here on out, like we're married to this. And I see a lot of people doing that. They don't even really know each other very well. They just met at like what I just said, they just met at a conference or something. Right. And it's like, let's just do this. Right. And I don't think there's a need for that. I think you can do it in a way where you're not joined with an LLC and you don't got to do a tax return together and all that stuff. You could just have a 50-50 deal by deal type of partnership. So that would be my biggest advice.
Start slow, date a little bit, see how they handle conflict, see how they handle things not going the right way. I mean, I think one of the biggest things I've learned over the past couple of years is, when markets are going up and everyone's making money, even people that aren't really aligned in their values or their work ethic tend to have successful partnerships. But as soon as something goes south and someone loses money and you have to write a check, that's where I think you see who your real partners are and who the people are that you want to continue to do business with. I think when you're making money in an up market, it's pretty easy to keep things cordial and to have a good working relationship. But I totally agree. I think that start small, start slow, do one thing together, and then see how that goes. And I think really, one of the things I like to talk to people about is see how they handle conflict and see how they handle when things go bad. You really get a good read on someone, when things do not go as planned. For sure. Yeah. And yeah, that's definitely true. And then just, see
see how much work they put in. Like it's tough
Right.
with partnerships because I think one person ultimately always feels like they're doing more than the other person, and that's where a lot of conflict comes in, you know.
Right.
And so you got to really be on the same page of what are you bringing to the table, and individually, you know, like, hey, I'm doing X, Y, Z, and
Right.
you do that and you get it done, and the partner's doing whatever their responsibilities are, and you map that out and you put it on a JV agreement, a joint venture agreement, and spell it all out. Like, here it is. So when we get down the road 2 months on this project, and you're like, I didn't say I was going to do that. Oh no, you did. You signed right here, and I have it all mapped out. So
Right.
I think you know, paperwork. Just same with dealing with contractors. Like, it's the same deal. Have a lot of paperwork. Have your expectations, and just write everything out so that it's solid. There's no second guessing it. It's spelled out. It's agreed upon. Signed.
That's a really good point for people starting out or any phase of their real estate careers. You know, my attorney told me a couple of years ago, if it's not in writing, it's not real.
Yeah.
If it's not in writing, it never happened. And you have to get everything in writing. I don't know that you need everything notarized. You know, I don't think you have to go that far, but I think you have to have everything in writing. You have to have both parties signing, saying, yeah, this is what we agreed to on this date. And for like exactly what you said, to go back in 6 months when there's a rainy day and he doesn't want to write the check or doesn't want to do what he committed to, and say, here's what you committed to 6 months ago. And that's part of having really strong fences that create good neighbors and good partnerships, is you have to, and I think that's fundamental, and you have to do that. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, 100%.
So I want to ask you, because when you wrote this chapter, it was obviously before anyone knew what coronavirus was. Now everyone does. How has that impacted your business?
Right now things are crazy, really. I mean, it's actually been a good thing right now. And really, kind of when it hit, I started seeing a lot more opportunities. And so when this whole thing started happening, a lot of guys just like stopped buying completely and just are on the sidelines. And some of them might still be. For me, that was not the case. I was like, bring it on. Let's, I'm going to buy deeper. I changed my numbers a bit, and I got a little bit more conservative on how I was buying, and looking at stuff, because thinking down the road, and I'm still looking at stuff like this, but if we go into a project, we're probably 4 to 6 months out on actually selling it. Sometimes sooner, sometimes we can get done in 3 or less if it's easy, but I'm forecasting out. And so when it first hit, I tightened up a bit, but I kept buying, and I see more opportunities because other guys were not buying. But I'm still at it. I'm still going. And what it did right now, there's not as much supply, and there's a huge like demand. I guess it's a pent up demand. I listened to some of your stuff, Chris, when you're talking about this, and you guys are seeing it. I mean, we just put a house on the market yesterday, and then the first day we had 25 showings, and people were just chomping at the bit to make offers. Like it's insane right now. And so I just think there's not a lot of inventory, and the getting is good at the moment.
So for you, I mean, overall, it's just been, you saw an opportunity, you tightened up your underwriting a little bit and just kept moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah. Kept moving forward. I mean, I think, we've saw a bit of a decrease in sellers wanting to actually sell. I think a lot of guys have, people are sitting tight, and that's why you see this pent up demand. If people are sitting tight and waiting to see what happens with the market and not selling. And so on the single family side, that's been a little bit of an issue. But we're still, I mean, we have a ton of projects going. We're still getting stuff weekly and finding new deals, and hasn't been too much of an issue.
Have you felt the iBuyers, the Zillows and all those guys, have you felt them leave the market? Has it been easier for you on the acquisition side, or has it made a difference?
Honestly, not really. Haven't noticed it too much. We did get some opportunities from them bailing out of contracts, but they're back now. I think most of them are back buying again. So
someone told me Zillow's coming back in like next week or two.
Wow, yeah, because I saw that they stopped in March. I didn't know they were back.
Yeah, I think Open Door's back as well.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just, I don't know. They move a little bit slower. It's a bit different. I think it's for the seller's point of view, like working with us versus working with with them is a different process. It's not as personal. And so there's some advantage there. But it hasn't been a big issue at this point.
Okay.
I'm really interested in, what was your mentality? So it's like March 20th, the entire world is in a pandemic. Every governor's shutting everything down. Everybody just like wanting to go inside their home and just hide and, like just try and be protected and not take any risk or not take any action. What was it? What was your thought process that said, oh no, I'm going to stay active. I'm just going to tighten up my underwriting and still be out there looking for deals? What was your thought process like that led to that decision versus a lot of people that we know that were like, I want to sell everything. I want to go hunker down and just take cover.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say I wasn't worried. I was for sure concerned. We have a lot of projects going, and it's concerning for sure with all that news and people scared. So I'm not going to say I was not concerned at all. I was definitely concerned, but I kept going. I mean, I have a team of people, and what am I going to do? I'm not going to shut it down and be like, hey, sorry guys, like you're on the street. I'm scared. Like I don't think as a leader, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to run away and be like, you guys are out, go fend for yourself. And sorry, like, no, we have things going. People rely on me, and I want to keep growing, and if I stop, I'm not growing. And so I think in any market you can thrive. And so it's just a shift that you have to make as a business owner or somebody, a real estate investor. Keep going, but maybe you have to shift your strategy a little bit. Maybe you got to get a little bit more cautious. But I don't see a reason to stop, and I'm glad that I didn't stop, because the stuff that we were buying then that we're selling now, like I said, the market's so hot, we're doing well on everything. And could that change? Yeah, it definitely could change. But will we be okay? As long as it doesn't go down 50% overnight, like we're fine. Like we'll adjust as the market adjusts, and we'll keep going, and there'll be opportunities in any market.
Yeah, no, that's really good stuff. I think part of what we've been talking to other guests about is just being able to stay disciplined, and as long as you stay disciplined, even through a downturn, it's kind of like you dollar cost average in, and you're going to be okay. And that's the beautiful thing about real estate. You may have to hold it a little bit longer. You may have to refinance out of some hard money and get some long-term financing and rent it, or, get creative. But I think that's the beauty of real estate. As long as you're disciplined and you have the ability to hold, and you're taking action when other people are scared, I think it only creates opportunity and upside long term. So that's really good stuff, Kyle.
Yeah, you got to adapt.
That's right.
I want to get this question before we wrap up here next 5 minutes or so, Kyle. But the podcast we recorded, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so, just kind of talking about a lot of the operations, your business, the wholesaling, your marketing, ad spend. I get a lot of people coming to the podcast website saying, hey, I want to get into wholesaling, all this stuff. I'm like, great. I go, that's not my wheelhouse. But I say, hey, go listen to Kyle's podcast. That's a great resource. And so my first question is, I know back then you were up for people reaching out to you to help do some mentorship, and that leads to some deal flow for you, some partnership opportunities. For all those people out there that want to do what you're doing, can they still reach out to you to run deals by you and get your help as well?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm connecting with people every single day. I mean, people are DMing me and chatting online and sending me stuff. And I'm ask anybody that knows me, and they'll say I'm pretty open. I'm an open person, and I'll chat with anybody. I mean, obviously I'm a busy guy, and so I can't spend 2 hours on the phone with somebody mentoring them how to get the first deal, but definitely open to chat with people and give them a piece of advice on what direction to go, or advise them on where they're at and what I think they should do next to get where they want to be.
Good. Well, I'll keep sending your podcast to people. My second question on the marketing side, because I know we geeked out on some of your marketing. It was after we recorded the podcast. Have you seen any difference in trends, especially when it comes to like Google pay-per-click ads or anything on like trends or ad cost changing once the pandemic hit or once Open Door left? Anything like that?
I think the marketing is actually a little bit less effective at the moment. And Yeah, and like I said, that's because people are holding on to their houses. There's not as many people selling, and so that, there's always going to be people that need to sell for whatever reason, some type of financial hardship that they have to sell their house now. That's always going to be out there. But the people that aren't in like dire straits to sell their house right now, they're waiting and they're seeing how things shake out, which is why inventory is so low. And so that means that our marketing is less effective. That means that we have to do more marketing and spend more money to get to the right people. And so that would be one thing. I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of wholesalers, and there's a lot of people that want to invest and do marketing. And so they gravitate towards the cheap marketing, which is telemarketing, cold calling, texting, that type of thing. And so we've seen that become less effective, for sure. Like, you just have to do way more of it. And that's definitely been something that's changed.
Cool. I need to get some other questions here, and so we got like 2 minutes left.
Here's I'll leave you with, since we don't have a lot of time. I thought your chapter was power packed with a bunch of great principles, so I'd encourage everyone to go out there and read the chapter and reach out to you. I think, your story coming from, military background, going to college, and then how you started slow and had different businesses, and we're kind of fine tuning just what being an entrepreneur was, to like really figuring it out and doubling down. I think it's really inspirational. I think there's a lot of great, valuable nuggets there for people to get. One of the things that really stuck out to me that I don't think can be repeated enough is just delayed gratification. And in your chapter, you talk about using your retirement accounts and 401k and IRA, so you can have money in the future, even if it's not going to create current day income. Expand on that a little bit. Talk about why you think that's so important, and why that's something that you've decided to as a pillar of your, create a pillar of your business around investing like that.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, first of all. Second of all, I've always been, let's just say, the cheap ass, and been tight with my money. And, it's paid off for me over the years. I've been like that since I was a kid.
Wow.
I've just been a saver. That's how I started the vending business. I was in the military making, I don't know, 20 some grand a year, as a low level, airman. And, but I was stacking cash. I was eating at the chow hall. I was saving money. I wasn't like dining out and blowing money at the bar. I was saving. And I did not have, rich parents that said, here's all this cash, go start a business. That's not how it went. I was a saver. I saved money, and I took my life savings and started a business and just took a big risk. But I could only do that because I was a saver, and I didn't have luxurious stuff.
Right.
I still, to this day, I drive a RAV4. Like, I mean, I'm not a flashy guy,
Those are coming back, man. Don't downplay that.
There you go.
Toyota's making some big changes there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with the simple things. I don't need I don't need the crazy stuff. And so I think that I take that mindset into investing as well. And so, I'm always looking at where can we improve, and how can I get a better ROI on my marketing? How can we be more efficient with these rehabs? Where can we cut costs? What's my cost per deal? What's my this? What's my that? And I'm always looking at the numbers and trying to figure out, how to be efficient and put out a good product and be effective, but at the same time, not just, be crazy with my money. And I think that helps a lot. Like, I'm not saying don't live life. Like, I live life, I live well, and I'm happy, but I'm not, I don't need to be flashy either. And I'd rather take that money and go buy a rental with it, and get that passive cash flow, rather than have something fancy right now. I'll put it in a rental. I'll get that cash flow. I'll get equity building over the years. And like you said, delayed gratification. And same with some deals, like I could go flip a house, and 50% of it goes to the IRS, and I got some cash. But if I can do a few of those a year in my retirement account, then I'm stacking that account, and I can't touch that money now, but eventually I will be able to, and I'll have a nice
pile of cash.
I have a nice piggy bank, and of course, like I can't do them all like that. Like I have staff, I have a lot of overhead. And so I have to bring in money, and I have to sell houses to be able to keep everything going. But yeah, I think it's important to think like that and put money away for the future. And then slowly slowly buy rentals. Like I'm more of I'm not really a high leverage type of guy. Like I'd rather have equity in a house and feel safe and have more cash flow. Some people leverage like crazy, and maybe that's holding me back a little bit on how many units I could have. But I think, like I said, from as long as I can remember, that's just how I've been. I've been kind of on the safer side of things, but obviously I still, push it as well with the business and trying to grow and do more and more. So
yeah, great stuff, man. I love it.
take some risk, but also like you got to take risk to get ahead, of course. But at the same time, like there's something to be said about being conservative as well.
Kyle, this was great. Every time I talk to you, I get more and more impressed with just the business you built and how you run things. So hats off to you there, man.
Appreciate it.
And I know you'll be writing in the 2021 book, but we'll actually have to talk before the next year too to stay in touch. If I talk, but I need to stay in touch with this guy more. So we got to stay in touch more, man. I really appreciate this call with you.
Yeah, I would love it. I'd love to do more projects with you guys, and however I can get involved and help would be great.
Sounds great. All right. Well, Terrence, thank you. Everyone out there, thanks for listening. If you guys are interested, fix and flipping, wholesaling, Kyle's a great resource. Listen to his podcast and come out with him a couple of questions and do some good networking. So thanks, Kyle.
That was great. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.